Yo! Welcome everybody back to Boiling Taters and Bold Tempers. My name is Zachary Ronaldo, better known online as Zach the Bold. And guys, I just checked the temperature and it turns out we're so back. It turns out it's so back degrees. That was way better than I had. Welcome back everybody. It's been a wonderful week for myself. Put out a few videos. Frostpunk 2 came out a little bit ago. Been playing that. It's been super fun trying to figure that out. I tried to take a day off to play it, and I put like 4 hours into it, which is like a lot, but you know, I think back to the days when I played the original Dead Rising, which also coincidentally the remake for that came out recently. You know, I beat that in one day. I spent 12 hours in one day in high school or something like that playing that, and I beat it. So weird to see how things change, you know? I got another copy of the Player's Handbook. People are like, Zach, what do you think? Zach, what do you think about the new Player's Handbook? Dude, I've played 3 sessions with it. I was at D&D in a castle when my friends ran it. Like, I don't know yet. I can't say. I've seen some of the changes. I haven't seen all of them. All right. I don't know. Also, it looks like this is sponsored by AEW Games. It's not. I just coincidentally am wearing their shirt and I have Rise of the Drow behind me, but I promise you it's not. But we do have a real sponsor for the podcast this week. Whoa. We have Monument Studios with their new Fantasy Plus. You can tell I don't have a script for this. I should have. They should have given me a script. Yeah, this is real. You know when I say that, like, you know, I said that there were live shows and there weren't actually live shows. We are the #1 podcast on Apple. 4 weeks in the run-in, 4 to 6 weeks in the run-in now. And I have said some other things, you know, that may not be true. But this is a real sponsor. It's Monument Studios, Fantasy Plus. They make great. You can. Why did anybody? I spent 7 years making my sponsored posts on TikTok. It's great. It's called Fantasy Plus. It's like a AAA cinematic audio thing you can use to play your games. If you're looking for a better way to run audio, it's like $5 a month. They have a Kickstarter. They have late pledges going on right now. Go check them out. I have a video on them, and it's a funny video. I don't care what anyone says. No one said anything. I always get all this love. I just have all this love in my life, and people are like, I'm like that kid I'm Goob from Meet the Robinsons. Hey, Goob, you want to hang out after class? Hey, I really like your content, Goob. Hey, that was a real great take on the last podcast, Goob. They all hated me. But yeah, so shout out to them for sponsoring the podcast. We made it, guys. We made it with the podcast. We have 2 sponsors. Holy moly! You're like, who's the other one? Well, that's for the next episode, right? They only paid me for one. Guys, make sure to check out Chaos Theory. Airs every Friday at 5 or 5:30. I don't know. So what? You missed the first 30 minutes. What a big deal. It's either 5 or 5:30 EST. No, Pacific. Holy cow. We're reeling them in today with the great ad reads. This is really going to be... Now, HelloFresh were literally writing me out an email, and they're like, then they watch that part, and they're like, okay, never mind. It has cooled down in Los Angeles. The me talking about my sweat haters be losing it right now. Stop talking about it. It seriously is a lot cooler out. It's like a LA 70s, which is like a Midwest, like 65, which is really nice. Or 68 degrees, which is the temperature of the Black Mesa Research Facility. That's true. Look that up. Okay, yeah, go watch Chaos Theory. Make sure to shout it out. Thank you to everyone who has messaged me about it and said that they like it. I feel like Goob all the time, you know? No one's watched Chaos Theory and they all hate it. And then I get 70 messages. Oh my God, I love your character and your relationship with Mr. Sheikadance is so nice. They all hated me. A couple things we're going to talk about from last episode. So, number one, someone said, it's not someone said, there was kind of this little discussion about like, people are, and I don't think I worded this correctly. So, with DM NPCs, I'm not saying they're a bad thing inherently, and I think I was trying to get that point across by saying, like when you're the DM, you are everyone, why do you need a DM NPC? I think I also misunderstood how some people view what a DM NPC is. So I want to just set straight, like I have DM NPCs that help escort and like lead the party. Railroad! Zach, you're supposed to leave a breadcrumb trail that's cryptic and people can't even tell what's going on. Then you'll have a great way to escort your party. Railroad! Give me a break. Give me a break. No, I have DM. I do have DM. If that is your definition of it, I have a DM NPC. I have plenty to tell people where to go because it's a big world. I have a big world, all right? There's nothing wrong with that. I seriously don't. Now, if you make it so it's like your self-insert of yourself into your world and so that you can do a power trip and have power over your friends, which a lot of DMs do just for the sake of doing, then that's a whole different thing, all right? But I'm saying if you're using them smart, I wouldn't even consider them DM NPCs, you know? What's a good example? I can't think of anything. Like, is Dory, like, no. I don't know who directed Finding Nemo. Either way, you know, there's no DM NPCs to lead the story on. You know what I mean? Whatever. I love your guys' stun comments. I still think you're wrong. Someone was really upset. Not really upset, but there were a few people who were like, I can't believe you say there's no middle ground. I'm telling you, the middle ground for me is that you change it. That's it. People are like, there's no middle ground. I use stun this way instead of that way. Okay, so what I'm saying is that you can't use stun in the way that the book wrote it because I think it sucks. And then you're like, well, I change it a little bit. How is there no middle ground to talk about that? Okay, well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when it comes to have D&D 5e stun or not, there's no middle ground for me. I don't want it in my games. And then for you, it's like, well, you're saying there's no middle ground, but I changed. We're not saying the same thing. We're not saying the same thing. I feel like I'm having a repeated episode. Guys, welcome to episode 4.5. But other than that, you know, I do love hearing your takes. I like to hear how it's different. I have yet to see a player comment and be like, no, I like stun. A forever player is what I'm saying. Just come in. I feel like it's always DMs that are yelling at me in the comments and being like, well, actually, you know, my rounds are not 45 minutes. Also, that was hyperbole to make a point, okay? Secondly, people are like, my rounds are 5 to 6 minutes. Okay, cool. I'm so glad that you see your friend's time as like a resource that you can use where it's like, I can use a little bit of this, but not a whole lot. All right. Well, I'm sorry. I'm saying that you can't at all. Me and my roommate had a wonderful conversation about stun. Neither of us were convinced the other way. I thought he was coping out of his mind, and then he's like, oh, so I'm coping because I don't agree with your opinion? And I wanted to just be like, yes, but unironically, I did not want to lose the argument. But it was a good back and forth, and he did give me good perspective on it. But once again, I think that it's because he is coping, and that he just uses it and doesn't want to admit that, you know, it does suck. He also thinks that poison is worse than stun. I love you. Also, not a question. Someone submitted this in, and I would love for all of you to hear it. I would love it. Hi, Mr. Bold. That's me. He's addressing me. Listen to this. I would like to clear something up. Listen to this. I'm a medical laboratory scientist, and I work with hydrochloric acid every day, better known as stomach acid. It is a very strong acid, and it can, in fact, dissolve steel and titanium over time. Okay. At first I read this and I was pissed. I'm like, that's not going on the podcast. And then he continued. Now here's my point that a lot of dummies in your comments need to understand. If I threw a shot glass or two of hydrochloric acid at your face, it would likely melt your face off and do irreversible damage. It could potentially exterminate you. I forgot, this is the podcast. It could potentially kill you and would make you blind even if you got a small dent in your eye. Understandable. I get it. Me, I have high constitution. So probably not for me, but I get it for like everyone else. If we put that into D&D terms, that would probably be more than 1d6 damage. A lot more. And yes, sometimes too, this is just like a little side tangent. If you're having a hard time explaining to new players how HP works, sometimes you do have to narrate in a way where you're like, there's one big bad and you guys are throwing acid splash, fireball, you know, slashing with a weapon times. You're like, I thought this was a normal dude. You can say it's more of like a battle of attrition more than anything else, really. And like, it's like, you know, the fireball's a distraction. He maneuvers out of the way, but it like takes away a bit of his concentration for something. And then finally, when you get to HP 0, then that's when you go in for the final strike, and it's very cinematic. That's just a little tangent. Yes, it can dissolve metals. And then I was like, I'm going to block this person. But they would have to sit there and have the lock submerge in acid for potentially up to an hour, depending on the metal. And that's dumb. Now, let me stick with this, okay? Let me say something for it real quick, right? Now, players are going to be like, well, I guess I'll stick around for an hour. There's a thing in Dragon of Icefire Peak. I've never really come across it before, but I know it's in, or after, and I know it's in different modules. There's things where sometimes, this is also in Shattered Obelisk, too. two of my most well-known, to me, modules, because I played through those extensively. There is a part in an underground mine where it was like, this will take 2 hours for you to clear the rubble out of this hallway. Now, mind you, there's no pressing looming threats. There is nothing that would make it so that them doing it for 90 hours would make any difference. So why put it in there that it's going to take 2 hours? It doesn't matter. And then this is going to be the same thing with like Acid Splash, where it's like, well, I'll just wait an hour. There's no other point. Well, actually, how about it doesn't work like that because it's not written in the rules. Sorry, we're getting back to real life science. Also, there's a part in this isn't spoilers, or maybe it is. I don't know. For Shattered Obelisk, so if you're playing through Shattered Obelisk right now, slight spoilers. There's a part where there's like a fear effect, like going through a hallway. But when you clear out all of the monsters, you get to the final part and there's another one. It's like, why is that there? Why is there a fear effect in a hallway? It doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect anything going on. It would prevent like someone going like running past all of the enemies. But we run XP here. So why would my teammates do that? Also, by the way, my players are killing each other for XP. My characters, we've TPK'd 4 times. It's like Billy from Billy and Mandy where he's eating all the chocolate. He's like, and one is antidote. If you want to level up, you have to kill all of your 3 teammates. He's eating himself. How much XP do I got? Stabbing himself in the stomach. Billy, no. Ew. I can't do a Billy accent. He's like, everyone's just killing each other for XP inside of the game. Now, Billy, if you want to level up. Beating up my character's mastiff companion. DM, please, how many XP for this? Everyone's just PvPing each other. Someone told me there's like events that creators do where they PvP each other for like charity and stuff, which is awesome. But when someone was describing it to me, I thought they were describing it where they like go to their local game store, like it would be Commander Night with Magic, and they just like, I just couldn't imagine the toxic stuff that could be going on at a game store when you're legitimately playing like D&D, like XCOM or like just Warhammer 40K, like the actual tabletop version, the war game version of it. Oh my God, it'd be so, and there's a whole like subreddit about it. Oh my gosh, new meta just dropped. Silvery Barbs banned in Legacy. Hope this was informative. I love finding real explanations for things that happen at D&D table, almost as much as I love the show. Genuinely, this has been super interesting to read. I love it. Now, it's hard because now it's like, you know, at what point, well, I'm fighting, you know, beholders, and beholders aren't real life. How does science work with beholders? Listen, I believe science this time around, and until it, you know, goes against me, then I'll turn my back on it. But right now, science is goated. With that being said, let's start the episode. 7 years in. Also, I forgot people. I gotta put myself back into, oh yeah, other people live different lives and they want hour-long episodes. Some want really, really long episodes, and that's totally okay with me. I forgot that's the point of a podcast. I'm like, I want to have 5-minute episodes. I'm stuck in the short-form world forever. No! Guys, this podcast is going to be broken up like those reposted movies on TikTok where you guys can watch Snowpiercer, but it's going to be spread across 70 different channels and 140 episodes. Hey, Zach, straight to it. What do you think about players piecemealing out their plan instead of saying, oh, there's one other thing. I just remembered. Someone said in the comments I used trope. Oh, gosh. Trope and cliche together. And I'm sorry. This was a great comment. It really was. I did not know the difference between trope and cliche, and I will try my best. Watch I get it wrong right now. You're Zach, you're Cody. My neurons are flying off at the end of Signs. Your mom's brain was firing off. She said, swing away, Merle. Someone said I use trope and cliche interchangeably, or I never said cliche and I always use trope. So trope, apparently, I should have wrote this down, but it's funnier if I have to take 2 episodes. I should have wrote this down. I should have written this down. But it's funnier if it takes 2 episodes for me to get it right. Trope is something that is not negative. It just means like that, like there's something that continues to happen, and it's like I should have wrote it down. And then cliche is something that is like negative, right? It's like the same thing, but bad. I don't know. Okay, I'll write it down for the next episode, but I'll get it right this time. I promise. I might not be able to describe it, but I can certainly understand it. Okay, what do you think about players piecemealing out of their plan instead of saying the whole thing from the beginning? Example, players are on the train being accosted by bandits. This guy's good vocab. One player wants to leap off the train and steal a bandit's horse by knocking the bandit off the horse. This player does not tell me this. Instead, they ask me, how far can I teleport with X magic item I have? I already see where this is going, and I already know what I'm going to say. I look it up and I tell them 20 feet. Sure. Makes sense. They say, I want to teleport on top of the bandit. They move their token to eclipse the bandit on the horse. So they, like, already move over. They're already like, DM, how far? And in their mind, it's like, DM, how far away? Which is awesome, right? This is what D&D is. But instead, you're just the DM looking down. Your bags are sinking. Looks like you're SpongeBob with the suds. 20 feet, dude. Watch this. Confused, I tell them, I'm not making fun of you. Relax. Confused, I tell them, well, you're not going to be able to get a good foothold standing on top of the bandit like that, so why don't you make a dexterity save, reasonable thing to ask, to see if you can grab on before falling off. I wonder what's going to happen next. The player makes a big dramatic groan before moving their token back and saying, never mind, I'll just shoot him with my crossbow. Oh, like it's such a punishment to me. You've taken away my creativity. Fine, I'll just do this one little stupid thing. Great. Okay, now your turn. Next. I had I'll get to it in a second. It wasn't until after the fight I realized what they were trying to do because they told me that they got disappointed that I wouldn't just let them do the cool thing they wanted to do. I didn't get too upset. I tried to explain that if I didn't know what you're trying to do, I can't approve it. I told them it's better just to tell me the goal so we can work together and the steps needed to get to that goal. They were somewhat receptive, but this player would later leave the game for similar reasons. I can already see that Discord message. Okay, this was not a long message at all. This was actually very clear and concise. It was really well written out. I can already tell you exactly where the problem stems from this. This player wanted to have this moment where you as the DM, you were like, holy smokes. The Brennan Lee Mulligan, Brian Murphy, Matt Mercer, jaw drop. And and the way that they do it is by not telling you what they're doing. Telling you, the guy who's describing everything that's going on, because they want to have that moment where you're like, oh my God, which is cool to have or whatever, but they're trying so hard, they'll just, and then you're like, okay, cool, you can try to do this insane creative thing to do. Creative. You're trying to do this insane thing. Dude, explain to me what you're doing. Let your friends be like, oh my gosh. Instead, they're like, I just shoot him with my crossbow. You know what I want to do is I want to buy a really big dunce hat and like not like get up and over the table and put it on my players. I want to reach over, like nearly climb over my table and put the dunce hat on them right when they're the most mad. And even then, even if they won't let me, I'll put it right next to me. I'll put the little dunce hat right there. Dude, guys, I understand you want to have this really cool moment where it's like, how about this? How about this for the player's perspective? Text your DM. Be like, hey, I really want to, but they can't even do that because they want to stupefy the GM. They want to have this moment where it's like top 10 greatest moments where DMs were thrown off. Listen, I get it, and that's super cool. But did you also realize that like there's these two other aspects of the game called exploration and roleplay, like right there, and you can do like literally whatever you want to do right here, but you wait till the most confined moments of gameplay to be able to do something super creative, and you won't even describe anything to me? Right, now, my GM did not describe this thing to me really well, and then a trap went off and we TPK'd. Meanwhile, I didn't want to tell him what I was going to do, so I jumped off a 20-foot ledge onto a horse, upside down, forehead to forehead. Well, actually, can you give me a DC level? They're level 17. Can you give me a DC 12 dexterity check? I just shoot him with my crossbow. This game sucks. I hate this table. Dude. How about instead of throwing a little tantrum at my table with Dunce hat on, it absorbs him. Yeah. Dude, how about instead of throwing your little temper tantrum at my table, how about you communicate like me, like you're adults? Oh, it says here, guys, it says here at the bottom of the things, we are in kindergarten. I had my mom write this question for me. So he did poop his pants and he did, groan. Really well put together. I think sometimes people get really caught up on trying to stupefy their GM, and then they're like mad when it's like, they're like a little embarrassed that they're like, oh, well, I didn't get to go, I'm questioned about my creative thing. Dude, I'm not questioning you. You can do your cool thing. He even said you could do a dex save. If you were just straight out like, no, you can't do that, then that's a whole nother problem, right? But he's like, give me a dexterity check, you know? You're jumping onto a guy, like, whatever. And if you fail, it's a funny moment. Instead, you, like, pause the whole game to have your little fit. So yeah, my advice for this is get a little dunce hat and have it so whenever your player wears it, they have to sign it. It's a little sign of shame. Like, what if this was like a really cool interaction? If it was just like, hey, and then he reaches over the table. It's kind of like, there was one time where this guy at the gym was like, hey dude, can I work out right here? And I go, oh yeah, no problem. And I have like another set, I was supersetting, right? So I had another set of weights and he picks up my weights and moves them. Oh, dude, I was about to lose my mind on him. This is the same thing. Before you move anything, how about you wait a second for me to describe what is going on? But I want to stupefy you. His moment, light over him. Everyone at the table, oh my gosh. Picks up, you've unlocked my trap card. You can do cool stuff like that, but like talk to me about it. How am I supposed to stupefy you? You can do that in a million ways. I had a moment where, you know, I have this very pivotal part of my game where this big plot thing, and I was like, how am I going to announce this to my players or hint at this or whatever? And one of my players, you know, casted Identify at the right time because it was a smart play. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was stupefied. It was great. The moment where Zach Oyama in Dimension 20, when he's mind controlled and he goes into a rage, he's a berserker, he gets clear mind and he's out of it. Now that's stupefied. Zach Oyama, he goes, wait a minute, Brendan. That's cool. You don't have to force these things. And you definitely don't have to get mad about them. Why are you getting mad about this stuff? And then you leave the table. Good. Get off my table. Take the dunce hat, too. Take the dunce hat. I'll make a new one. That's yours. Keep that. Hey, Zach, love your content being watched for... Oh, sorry. Hey, Zach, love your content being... Hey, Zach, love your content. Watching your shorts for a while. Once I found out you were doing a podcast, I binged all 4 episodes. I think that's on me. I think I do have to promote it a little bit more. Maybe I'll do a supercut. I'll do a supercut of all the episodes and put some stuff on my TikTok so that it gets out. Even people, I promote this on my Instagram more than anything. If you want to interact with me, the best way to do that is Instagram. Kind of Threads, Instagram mostly. And, you know, people are messaging me like, I had no idea you had a podcast. I'm like, it's on me. It's on me. It really is. Question is as follows. My group of friends love D&D. We've consumed Critical Role, D20, Dimension 20, and other D&D YouTube content for years. We had a new individual join the group last year and offered to DM for us as they have run games before, but with the caveat that they only run Pathfinder 3.5 games, which I'm assuming, now I don't know if you're saying Pathfinder and 3.5 or Pathfinder First Edition, which is like 3.5, as they say that's the superior version of the game. Biggest eye roll. And I'll get into that in a second. They prefer heavy roleplay, dialogue story, and lighter combat. For Pathfinder? Every game I've played in Pathfinder has been crazy crunch. I have never played a roleplay heavy Pathfinder game at all. However, it didn't really mesh with us, as all the content we consume is based around 5th edition. It's always the system we are most familiar with. We have talked about trying tabletop again, but for 5e, but we don't know how to go about it without things being weird. Any suggestions on how to handle that? Yeah, so... This goes out to my Pathfinder bros and all the people who are like, hey, you should try different TTRPGs. Like, there are different ways to go about playing the game. How about don't go to your friends who only know D&D through, like, TTRPGs, through D&D, through Critical Role, and all this stuff that they love and go and be like, hey, actually, this sucks. And you have no idea how bad it sucks because my thing is so much better. So without even talking about Pathfinder versus D&D and their systems and the intricacies, how about we make it the norm to just be like, hey, you want to try Pathfinder? Instead of being like, D&D sucks and this is why, because Pathfinder has 3 action systems, whatever. How about being a normal human being and just be like, hey, 5th edition's cool, but so is Pathfinder. You know what I mean? My gosh, why is it that every time someone tells me it's like they love a TTRPG, it's because they have to shit. They have to throw the other one that I like out the window. Oh, Zach just likes 5th edition because of... Dude, I'm sorry that sometimes I'm already busy enough, I can't learn another system. And I just want to, like, play a good story. And sometimes learning a new system holds me back from that. You know what I mean? I love other systems. I put other systems behind me all the time. I've played other systems. They're very cool. But sometimes, you know, you don't want to put the effort in. I talked about last episode about how some people are barely hanging on at your table by playing D&D. And then you want to play Pathfinder? You want to make it so that, like, character creation is so much different in Pathfinder, especially with skill feats. Okay, here you go. Hey, here's the first page of 70 of all the skill feats that you have to get into. Listen, it's great if you like. I like other TTRPGs. I play Pathfinder. I play Pathfinder once a week. I do. But you should not introduce it to me as it's like, well, this is better than what you're doing right now, and what you're doing is dumb, and you're dumb for it. Why are people always like that with D&D? Hey, newsflash, actually. D&D is the reason that, you know, cut that. But I see this weird thing now that it's like socially acceptable, and it's all these people, and weirdly enough, it's on r/D&D, r/D&D next, r/D&D1, whatever. That the main things of those are just people being like, wow, D&D sucks. And then there's us who are just like playing the game and, you know, aren't thinking every 5 seconds about, you know, how the game works and you know, how it can be better and how Pathfinder's better and how, you know, Call of Cthulhu and blah, blah, you know. And then it's like, hey, actually, I kind of do like how it's streamlined, and it's super easy to get my friends into it, and it's like, you can pick it up kind of pretty easy, actually. And also, like, D&D Beyond makes it, like, really easy. Well, it actually sucks. Did you know you're stupid and dumb? Hey, did you know you're lesser than me because you play 5th edition? Shut up, dude. Second question. If you don't mind, I have an idea for a cowboy-themed warlock that I want to play, dresses fantasy western, uses finger guns to cast Eldritch Blast. Super cool. I totally allow that at my table. But I wasn't able to use it as that same individual refuses to run or participate in games with firearms, as they staunchly believe that firearms ruin D&D. You're not using a firearm, you're using Eldritch Blast. What are you talking? Oh, but you're using finger guns. Oh, so it's like too high fantasy? Like, if they're running Game of Thrones games, I will agree with the other DM. It's like, hey, actually, this is low fantasy, medieval, you know, whatever. Cowboys don't really fit in, and neither do, like, the finger guns. I think it's great. What I'd say is this. If it is their game, and that is dumb if they don't allow it, if it's, like, high fantasy. There can be fantasy cowboys, it's fine. And there's also, you don't have guns, you're finger guns. The other thing is that, that's about it. I would say if it doesn't fit the theme of the world, you're gonna have to accept that and bring it to a different, you know, table. But if it does fit, make an argument that it's not firearms, that you're literally just doing something funny. I don't know. They gotta relax. Hey, Zach the Coat Rack. Okay, yeah, for sure. Ever since I started listening, well, mainly watching, your podcast, I've been thinking a lot about the first time I DM'd a campaign. I ran Lost Mines of Phandelver, fairly true to the original campaign instructions, though I decided I want to give this one goblin named Ymik in the campaign a bigger role. It happens all the time, totally fine. If you're a new DM, that's totally fine to do. Make the world your own. I decided to make him into a fighter wizard multi-class. Now, I will say, if this is like a NPC they fight, you never want to make stat blocks for NPCs that you fight, like human stat blocks, because there's different roles. Like there's a reason that stat blocks for PCs are different than monsters, and they play differently for a very particular reason, especially for the dynamics that like players are glass cannons for the sake that there are 4 or 5 of them, and then also like monsters are heavier. There's going to be less of them. You know, they have 17 different things. A great analogy I like to put is like right-click, examine on any creature in Baldur's Gate. And, like, some of the bosses, especially in Honor Mode, will have, like, a pretty big chunk of different abilities affecting them. Legendary resistance, legendary actions, a multitude of different things. Now, scroll your mouse over, go over to your tab, right-click, press examine, and go to that same thing on your character sheet. It's 2 miles long. So, you can see how the imbalance there isn't the exact same, right? There are 4 different reasons. That's my analogy for that. The encounter I ran was badly balanced, dealing with enemies low damage and having high HP, which made the fight go on for super long. That sucks. It ended with Ymik escaping through means of quite literal plot armor. I love that you just like, yeah, I plot armored him out. Because I thought he was cool and I wanted him to return later in the campaign, which he didn't because the PCs were smart and ended the campaign early. The players didn't quite like this, and I have since learned from that mistake. However, ever since I started watching your podcast, you've been in my head like that Akira meme, and I wanted to know your thoughts on plot armor like this, also in general. It's kind of like the rule of, you know, if you're gonna tell him no, don't give him a reason to roll, and that's really what this is. If you are making an encounter where your character could potentially beat the bad, and that's gonna ruin your whole plot, you have to accept the fact that it may happen. And it most likely is, because it's going to ruin your plans, as it always does. You've clearly learned from this, so I will say this to new DMs. If you want to have an invincible boss fight or whatever, you got to think about it the same way that like video games do, right? And how disappointing that feeling is 99% of the time, and how hard it is to make an invincible boss, right? Now, there are things where it's like, you know, at the beginning of Devil May Cry 5 or Sekiro, that there is that if you have, and usually reserved for New Game Pluses, so you can't do this in D&D, but it's reserved for like the greatest of players who have definitely been veterans to it and whatever, and maybe defying all odds, they're able to beat it. You have to roll with those punches. If you really like this NPC, oh my gosh, resurrection, a ghost, like there's a million different ways to bring this guy back. What I would say is, you know, remember, I don't like the saying that it's all about the players, because you know what? It's not. I will be totally honest. It isn't all about my players, actually. It's about also me having fun too, because if I'm not having fun, I don't want to run the game. That's going to translate to my game. Then you're not going to have fun, okay? Yes, it sucks that your NPC died. You gotta roll with it, okay? That's totally fine and makes for a good story beat. Now, at the same time, if they're getting all upset because of something like this, right? Throw them a bone. Give them something else that, like, you know, they have forever changed this person, and now maybe it's like, you know, the Emperor on the Golden Throne. They're forever. You gotta roll with the punches. This isn't even, you're putting too much, like, you know, the plot armor works if you don't give them the opportunity to have to enable that plot armor, right? That would be my take. It's bad for you, and it puts you into a bad position if you try to make an invincible cutscene where your character comes out and does whatever. Now you can also do it where it shows, you know, how strong your character is. I had, you know, pretty much a CR like 30 creature show up to my level 5 party, and they're like, okay, I'm going to attack him. Okay, go ahead. And it's like, you know, I have his HP pool and whatever, and it didn't really affect him. Shocker, right? There's way to do plot armor, right, for anybody in your game. But if you've already put it so far in that, you know, you have to then be like, and then he Dimension Doors out. He actually had one more spell slot. That's going to be really disappointing for your players, and you put yourself in a bad position. So just as much as it would say, like, do not ask your players to roll for something that is impossible. Do not put your villain out there where there's a possibility that it could ruin your whole game. And do not, if it does ruin your whole game, make sure to not add plot armor in. Hello, Mr. Bold. I have a long-term friend group with 6 members that I've been playing for D&D for about 7 years now. Whoa. I have a problem when anyone I like mentions having interest in playing D&D. I want to either invite them to our group or start a new group with them to enable them to play D&D. The problem with both of these desires is that our group is getting on the big side of things, which would slow down our game, and starting a new D&D group would mean committing to D&D for another night of the week. How do you decide when a table has the right amount of members? How do you decide if you should or shouldn't start a new D&D group? P.S. I love watching your YouTube shorts and enjoy the reactions of my friend group when I share them. I share the shorts with them, especially when it's relatable to our table. Hope you're staying cool and fresh. Flowerette. Great question. I'm currently dealing with this problem right now. I have a pretty solid friend group of 12 people, and I'm not running a game of 12 people at my table, right? And the problem with that is that there is a cutoff, because there is diminishing returns when you have, you know, I think the most I've ran for is 8 people. 8 people, and combat is really brutal at that phase, right? Then it's like, that's when, you know, stun is really bad. And maybe that's where my hatred for it comes from, you know, playing with these big tables and trying to involve my friends who are, you know, never playing D&D, and I'm trying to keep them engaged, and, you know, the book is telling me to stun them, and I'm like, oh, this has been tested by 40 different people across a span of, you know, 40 years. They would know what they're doing. Well, I guess not. It's so hard to approach this, and usually people are so understanding, but, you know, I can't, and it's detrimental to my game if I have one more person. I'm running 6 people right now in my game, which for some, you know, that might be a little bit less than you have, but, you know, I think really, just objectively, the sweet spot is around 4 players. 4 to 6. Maybe. I shouldn't say objectively. I think the sweet spot is around 4 to 6 players. I love all my players. I think we have a great thing. But there are times when I'm like, I hope I'm keeping this person engaged. You just have to be honest, and you do not burn yourself out on this game, on this hobby, to be like, well, I want to include all my friends that do want to play. Tell them to run their own games. Grab one of your players at your table and tell them to run their own games. And it's like, they have to understand, one, you have your own life going on, right? You have your own life, you're doing your own thing, and then you can't be running three... That's not your role as a DM, is to please all your friends by bringing them into a game. I couldn't even imagine there's like high school drama about, well, Zach doesn't let me into his game. Dude, I can't. I have a book this thick of everybody's backstory, trying to figure out everything that's going on. I'm running combat encounters that run 2 hours already. I had another, I had one more player. It's another 50 minutes of combat added on because I'm going to crank them into their reaction and then their companion because they're Beastmaster, and then... I can't do it. And I can't float around. It's not because I don't like you. It's not because you're not part of my integral group of players or whatever, It's because I can't, dude. I can't. I'm sorry. And I'm going to try. This is my advice. This is my genuine advice. Don't talk about your game in front of the people who are not invited. And I'm not saying don't try to make it so they don't hear about it or that they don't know about it and it's like a second group chat or whatever. But if these people want to be in your game, it's kind of rude to be talking about the game they're not in right in front of them. Because then it's just rubbing it in. Listen, I understand you want to be part of my game. And I understand that all of my friends, all my players talk about it. And, I am the Steven Spielberg, the Martin Scorsese, I have a Streamy, I have a Grammy, I have a Tony, I have, all these things in DMing, right? This is my masterclass. Guys, welcome to my masterclass. It turns to 4K video. Don't talk when we're at the bar, right? Or you're just around your friends. That's my true advice. Be honest and upfront with them, being like, I can't. And if they're like, well, can I be a guest player? No. Because then you're going to have, it's like getting first class flights, right? It's like you get first class once and then you fly economy the rest of your life. You playing one of my games, you'll remember it. I'm just kidding. But I can't, and it's detrimental to what I have going on. And maybe we'll change up the pool for next time and see who wants to play and who doesn't and whatever, right? But right now, I'm stretched thin. I can't even think about this from a player's perspective, right? Because a lot of my friends want me to play and whatever. But it's like, I'm sorry. At some point, you just have to be like, no. But don't rub it in, right? Don't be like, no, you can't play. Also, guys, last session was rocked, right? And that rocked. And they're sitting there, in a cold air. They're draped around in a blanket. Can I play? No. But what if I bring a Warlock Cowboy? No! No guns in my campaign. No, just don't talk about it in front of them and try not to make a big deal out of it. And if they're not understanding, that's on them. Don't feel bad because they're they create a new faction. We will rise up against these guys. I have Frostpunk 2 on my mind, all those factions and everything. Yeah, I will. That's not on you. I think there are a lot more responsibilities of DMs than what DMs give themselves credit for, psychologically pandering to little crybabies at the table and stopping fights at the table when two strangers who don't know each other want to talk about their imaginary characters. Now they're beefing because we allowed PvP into this game. Meanwhile, I got this guy in the corner who's touching, orb of control person, casting acid splash on the lock, telling me they're waiting an hour because scientifically that's what makes sense. And then looming around, grabbing up at my shoulders, their head comes out from under. Why am I not at your table? That's when I put the dunce hat here, choke slam this person into the table, laugh at them, railroad. Yeah, that's what I'd say. I am dealing with this. That's how I deal with it. I think it's fine, and most of my friends are very understandable and understanding. Okay, last question for the week. I'm so sorry, everyone. Hey, Zach wanted to submit a red flag for you. To put it simply, our DM has been implementing harsh, more strict mechanics and rulings throughout our ongoing D&D 5e campaign that essentially makes things incredibly difficult to even attempt anything within it, especially compared to how fun it used to be within the first handful of sessions we played together. Along with that, their harsher playstyle and story beats are complained about by them just because their party is simply adapting and surviving in the world they're throwing at us. After also making enemies in this campaign virtually impossible to succeed against, with our party party of 4 succeeding, somehow I question how every time, while on death's door. The DM will constantly complain about us winning, as if the combats are never difficult enough. he's mad. You guys, you crit. Dang it! He silvery barbs you. What are you talking about? That's a troll. I know the stat block. Don't you know? I listen to Zach the Bold's podcast. You're not supposed. This troll is different. It has silvery barbs. Why? Because I need to win. I thought we were just playing a game. Even in instances of introducing enemy characters who attack us unpromptly in combat that we succeed against, they will complain the next session about how that character we killed had so much... about how that character we killed had so much story and life to them, but we didn't get to see because we were... because we were too focused on combat, which is not true. Our characters struggle for their lives on a constant basis under their altered rulings as the campaign goes. Along with that, the DM has purposely steered us away from the main plot for months on end, only to complain to us how we were... This is the worst question I've ever got. I'm sorry, the worst scenario. We're the causes of avoiding their story. We recently strayed from the campaign for what we thought was going to be a quick in-game outing to venture. Oh, this is the worst. This has happened to me, dude. Venture and find someone who can resurrect 2 of our fallen party members. It's been 9 months out of game trying to get them together, and when we did succeed in bringing them back, the DM brought in another impossible, typical enemy who purposely separated the group to be scattered around the planet, and we're struggling to reunite again. When we do that and focus on the plot at hand, there are NPCs who are designed to hate us and never listen to what we say, resulting in the moments where in multiple cities our groups are known as criminals in which you are forced to flee in every single time. And they say they are not a troublesome group. We'll see. I agree with that. I mean, I don't know, but whenever I try to talk to them about their DMing, they talk about it as if this campaign is essentially what they look forward to every week, feeling wanted or needed by friends by running this campaign. Their words, not mine. Jesus Christ. I've offered to DM a campaign after this is all said and done. They seem very set on running things for this foreseeable future. I refuse to wave a white flag at this red flag. I refuse to wave a white flag at this red flag and want our group and DM to thrive. As someone who cares about their friend greatly, but also this campaign to go back to the realm of normalcy, it was when it first started, what would be the best way to go about it? This is so... Why is this person so set on you versus them? You missed all this person's backstory in life. It's like that, oh, here we go. The cliche. The cliche of... It's not exactly negative. The trope. They're using the trope-ish cliche where, you find the note on the goblin, which for, first-time D&D players is like such an eye-opening experience, or like, the goblin nursery, which is such a trope. Listen, you can't be berating your players. Now, I'm taking it from what this person is saying is true. This could be totally skewed and the wrong narrator, and like this DM is like, my players fight everything. They fight level CR 18 mages, like court wizards. They have gotten themselves kicked out of every single, like, that, we're gonna take that, and I'm gonna pin that right there, all right? I'm gonna say that this narrator is right in this circumstance for what I'm about to say. It is so funny to think that DM is like, you crits, no! they go behind their screen. Hey, DM, is everything okay? I worked so hard. And then they TPK and they're smug about it. Oh my God. Isn't that the worst, like, feeling when you're just, like, you're being nice? Like, you're 2 friends that have been going to bars together and, like, hanging out for years, and then you're just like, oh, so, I did fire damage, but you said they took less. So are they resistant, or is this, like, something else? I don't know. Okay, why are you saying it like that? They're, like, all smug, and their arms are tucked under their, armpits, whatever. I don't know. I don't know. How about I jump over and throw you out the window? How about that? Why are you being so smug? Why is it you're being such a jerk to me right now, dude? I just want to know. They're being so smug about it. And you're going to take, and they always do the same thing, All right, here we go. Here's some love for the players. The DMs will roll and just be like a lot. You take 48 damage. Oh, I'm down. Okay, that's. It's like they wanted you to stop. Like, okay, like I know, like me, the DM knows. Like, okay, stop. How about you stop saying that? What are you talking about? I just got down. Like, this is a pivotal thing in the story. Like, I'm the thing left. The thing is barely touched, and they're like all smug. You take 48 damage. Okay, well, I'm upset about that actually, and you're being very nonchalant. Actually, just an annoying pet peeve of mine with these smug DMs. How about you stop looking smug at me? How about that, dude? Oh my gosh, who's this person manifesting my friend right now? Okay, if you want my advice. And remember, DM's side is pinned, okay? If you want my advice to this player, right? This person needs some clarity on what this game is about. And I think I'm being dead serious. I think this is what you should say next time. Pull out the dunce hat, put it on your DM. You win. It's a combat that didn't go until the very end. And it was slightly balanced, still a little unfair with all these mechanics. And you just say to your DM, hey, that was a really fun encounter. The room starts to spin around them. Everything's getting blurry and foggy. You're welcome. They slam their head down. What does it mean? What does it mean? Is everything okay, DM? They go back down. They're in a void, floating through space. Hit the ground. They're 7 years old again. They see their parents fighting in the kitchen. Turn around, it's you. You're walking, hands behind your back. You're in white robes. They're covered in ash and soot for some reason. They have tears welling up in their eyes. You lean down and say, it was a good combat. They're thrown back like Doctor Strange. What have I done to my players? They need to realize that the feeling of having your friends be like, that was good. Like, I had a fun time playing the hero and we overcome the odds. To them, they're balancing encounters. Listen, a battle that goes down to everyone having 1 HP and 2 people down is not satisfying in the same way that it is in like a video game. Because if that happens too much, then you're and I've talked about this in another episode, you don't feel like heroes. You don't feel like heroes. But what it seems to be is that these people are intentionally adding mechanics to make it so that it is more and more difficult for yourself. So what I want you to do is show your DM appreciation. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This is what's going to happen. You're going to be like, hey, after my very dramatized idea of what would happen to them, because that's what would happen to me. There was like a moment where, you tell them and they just go, oh, thanks. Move on to the next thing. Oh, also, but they all also explode for 50 D1000s. What? Game's over. Zach, follow-up email. That was the worst advice I think I've ever heard anybody. He does not give a shit at all, actually. I had this moment in my game I'm running, and there's this naval combat, and I have a very overpowered ranger who does a lot of damage because of a bunch of different stuff. I don't even know. They sent me their character sheet. It made sense at the time. It still makes sense, whatever. But the way that we do ship combat is like any damage to a ship is either, it has to be multiplied. Okay, so if like a cannonball damage multiplied by 5 onto a person's damage is divided by 5 onto a ship, right? And they do so much damage, it is doing as much as like cannonballs, right? And at first I'm like, oh, this is really messing up my encounter. And then I let it go and I narrated this part where like this cowboy character was really, really cool. And it was like sniper elite and like you followed the bullet. And like they felt awesome. They felt so cool in that moment. And that was like the moment for me where I was like, my heart grew 10 times that size. I was like, wait a minute. Why am I caring so much about balancing encounters and making it a battle of attrition and keeping it so that, it seems dire straits and they overcome it when just doing something so cool for making your characters feel like, the protagonist of the story for just a second You know, not for the whole time or like this is their story or anything, but for a moment they have a really cool thing where their entire ship was being destroyed. And this person pulled through, not by means of, you know, how I thought ship combat was going to go, but because of, you know, just their character is so cool. And it dawned on me. I was like, wait, like, that's what these guys want. Because I live by the fact that, you know, your players don't know what they want. They don't know what they want in their story. They don't know what they want in their characters or how things to build and whatever. But they know it when they find it. And as a DM, picking this off the board, and as a DM, that's what you should be looking for. So even if you're the best DM and you're not going to be mad because you're losing the encounter because you're like, it's me versus them, you're going to be losing because you're like, oh, I balanced this incorrectly. And that reflects me on this hobby that I spend a lot of time on. This reflects onto me as a person running this game. And that's a little frustrating for me. And then I get a little mad and I want to make it so that, you know, every character has silvery barbs, 2 reactions, everything, so that I can make this more of a battle of attrition. You're going in the wrong way. You're supposed to be looking like, there should be a moment where you're like, as a DM, you're hoping that, you know, they overcome odds and or whatever, and everyone stands up, yeah. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for the moment where it's like Dire Straits, you know, I just totally went back on. They're looking for the moment where it's their character doing something awesome. And you know, they tell you right away, and they don't just move things on the board and be like, well, whatever. If you don't want me to do whatever creative, they communicate it to you, and you narrate that for them. You all of a sudden take them out of the combat and put them back into like this world of theater of the mind. And it's fascinating to see your players like all of a sudden be like, oh, that was a really cool thing my character just did. That's where your DM should go. Instead, they're scratching away. Your DM's so mad. They have a knife behind. He's out here. Dude, you're at my house. What are you carving in? It's just the amount of important NPCs. Dude, you've tallied 7 things into my table. Like, you're going to have to pay for that. Well, maybe you guys should be, you know, fighting my NPCs without any love for them. Dude, you're making me fight Dr. Necromancer the Evil. Like, what do you expect? Yeah, well, he's Dr. Necromancer the Evil because his wife is dying, and he has to be evil to do that. And you wouldn't know that because you killed him right away. Because what? But I'll make him run away because I plot armor for him. Well, okay, number one, how would I know that? Because their name is Dr. Evil of the dark, underground, hell, blazing, whatever, right? Well, Asmodeus actually. How about instead of you making me feel bad for the NPCs that don't matter and will never come up again, how about you instead make me feel good as a player because I'm going to be showing up here to your dumb game. You're you're going out of your way to make me feel worse for playing in your game. How about you make me feel good for once? How about that? How about you put down these weird insecure walls about this hobby that we have, right? And you just realize, oh wait, I'm playing a game with my friends, and it's okay to make them feel important every now and again. How about that? How about that is the point? All right, I got to get into the comments before we wrap this up, just because it's over 5 minutes. It's over the 5-minute time limit I had. Oh, also, I just want to say, my players now at my table, who a lot of them listen to this podcast, and God bless you if you do, like, very supportive. I love my friends. I love all you guys. But they will say now the authoritarian, strict 2-drink limit at the table. And so I want you to know it affects my life, all right? Lupus the Rex says, I appreciate your enthusiasm and candid... Oh, he sends $25. Thank you. That's super nice. I appreciate your enthusiasm and candid approach to gaming from both sides of the screen. As a player and forever DM since first edition. Holy schmoly. It's so cool to see newer generations taking up the mantle of gaming and having such a passion for the game. Though I don't agree with everything you say and you do. Why is that bolded? It's not really, I'm just kidding. You bring up some very valid points, and you've given this old wolf a few good slants and more. Oh, dude, this is like... This is like actually really nice, and it's kind of making me choke up a little bit. You bring up some you've given this old wolf a few good slants more than... Dude, oh my God, I can't read this, bro. It's so like, please keep calling out those things that many others are too timid to tackle. It's crystal clear that you love D&D. 5e is definitely boss. So, my gosh, coming from a person who plays first edition, that's actually really cool. And gaming in general, I'm a fan. Thank you. I have like chills, bro. Like that was super nice. Thank you. I do spend a lot of time on a lot of this stuff. And sometimes, it does feel like, sometimes I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And, especially with the short form stuff, let me just talk about the short form stuff real quick, right? And I talk about this every time, but it's my job. You guys have come here to this podcast. This podcast probably didn't bring you in to the shorts, I'm grateful for everybody who supports the podcast and my videos and whatever. And, I am up to the algorithms, as any content creator is, right? I'm up to the algorithms choice of how things are. And it's not always the algorithm, right? If you make a bad video, you can't blame the algorithm for that. But sometimes, you spend a lot of time on stuff. So it's a whole thing. I want to say I'm very appreciative to all of you guys, and thank you for the support, and especially thank you for the support on this podcast. And, as like, this is my job, it feels very nice for someone from First Edition to say, yeah, hey, you kind of know what you're talking about, or at least you're giving some refreshing takes, although I don't agree with you. So, I love you all. Sav Likes Birds sent $15. Hi, Zach. I think every video you make is literally peak humor, and I'm eating up these podcasts. Please don't shorten them, bro. I'm begging you to keep these episodes an hour long. I DM'd over the summer for my friends and tried to prep and homebrew an entire world with deep lore in 2 months while doing an internship. Oh, sorry. Yep, in an internship. And it was genuinely so stressful to manage that I instantly got burnt out DMing by the time summer was over. But your videos have genuinely inspired me to start thinking about my world more and maybe even try to DM again alongside my classes. Anyways, thanks again for the great content. It keeps me sane while I wait to play again as my beautiful baby boy Norbert every Thursday night with my friends. Hey, I'm super glad. Remember, this is a hobby. It shouldn't stress you out. If you need to take time for yourself, that's great. But remember, you're not always going to agree with your players. You're not always going to agree with yourself. At the end of the day, take a step back and be like, this is cool. I get to hang out with my friends. That's really nice. Real Felony sent £5. Quid? I still don't know. 5 ounces? Sending this for a Goon Platoon snack fund. Please keep doing this, man. Usually I'm not a big fan of podcasts at all, but I can't stop watching these. Keep it up. Thank you so much. I will keep it up. Hooligan Genie sent $5. Still love the show. Let me rephrase on a scale from 1 to 20. How do you think... this is the same guy who said Where's Waldo in the last video. How do you think... how much do you think you look like Where's Waldo? I think he has a longer face than I do. Also, how do you feel about player goal-focused campaigns? Campaigns where players have written goals that dictate the focus of the game. This just forces them to act and the DM reacts instead of the other way around. I've never even heard of that. That's so interesting because, like I said, I don't think my players know what they want. But to have them, know what's going to happen and where things are leading and where they want things to go is very interesting to me. I don't think I'd ever do it in my life. I'd have to see something and really be I'd have to have a discussion with somebody for them to tell me how it went with them and how that goes, because that does take away my fun in the game, which is the world building and the mystery and having my players uncover the world and the mystery that's going on. So if they already know, that does take away a lot of fun for me. Then it feels like 4 people are trying to entertain one as opposed to the other way around. I just have to be convinced. Antonio Bart 4768 sends 2 quid. Does not say D&D Germa. Thank you for that. Thank you, crazy person. 2 level fighter, then 1 level war cleric viable. I don't know war cleric. Hold on. Yeah, it looks like it's viable. You'll get heavy armor with both. Some of it but you get war casting. I think it can work. Because I don't think clerics get a second attack at level 5. That's the only thing I keep an eye out for, and it depends on what build you're trying to do. This would be really fun with a multitude of different subclasses. But yeah, do I think it's viable? Yes. And I'm sick of people being like, well, you can play whatever. It's not about viable. You know what? I'll be honest with you. It's not that fun. It's not that fun to be in combat and your DC saves are 12 or, 11 or 12 because you played a Leonin Paladin and you had to spread things across strength, wisdom, and charisma and whatever else. It's not fun. It's not. You do have to have a little bit of min-maxing to have a fun game. Now, there's a bell curve to that where it's if you suck, you're not going to have fun. If you're too good, then your DM's not going to have fun because then they have to do a bunch of stuff to get around you. But at the same time, it's just viability in the game does matter. It does matter. I'm going to say it. Don't listen to people that are you can play whatever you want. Okay, if you want to have less fun, you can play whatever you want. If you want to be bad at the game and, no, but I'm saying if you want to be bad at the game to the detriment of you having fun, which sounds like a win-win to me. Yes, being viable does matter. I don't care what people say. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Just play whatever you want. Okay, great. I'll just like not contribute. And it's like, it doesn't even matter to the other players. The other players won't care because they're already gonna be min-maxed out of their mind, right? It's gonna be you're not gonna have that cool moment where it's like, oh, I did this cool thing because I'm like whatever. The best thing is gonna be like, oh, I cast another person. Well, that's a first because everyone has a +2 modifier to their wisdom saving throws, whatever. And you have a DC 11 wisdom save. Viability matters. It does. When you make a character, keep that in mind. Guys, that's it. Wait. No, never mind. Iceberg 8 sent $5. Thank you so much. Please go watch a Germa rant compilation. It'll be like looking... Okay, so there is another Germa comment. I thought there was 1 week without a Germa. Please go watch a Germa rant compilation. It'll be looking at a non-D&D mirror. Also, love the content. I've never played a game of D&D in my life. That's crazy to me. The fact that, like... I mean, it's awesome, right? Go play D&D, or at least play Baldur's Gate. I don't know if I'll get it for that one. Go play it. I have, like... If you're looking for something even simpler, like you really don't want to get into D&D, this is not even sponsored, but... a person I met named Patrick, wonderful author, made this game called Mazes. And it is a super simplified version of like a TTRPG. And he gave me a demo of it. I had it on the first episode. I recommend that. So if you're looking to get into D&D and you don't want to like get whatever, I love D&D. I think it is super easy to get into. But even then, if you're just looking for something even less like if you're looking for something simple, right? Mazes is a great way to go. Yeah, I love you all. Your support and appreciation means the world to me. I hope you guys have a great week. I will see you next Monday. Send me, guys, thank you so much for all the emails. I need more. If you have more, if you have anything, please send it to me. If you are a scientist and you want to help my takes about stun, give me scientific reasons why stun sucks. That'd be really cool. Thank you to all the boulders out there. All right, hey, we got a name. We got critters, we got boulders. Everyone's like, that, we're not saying that. But thank you guys, seriously, to everybody. I love you all. I hope you have a great week, and bye.